When there's no more room in hell, the dead will listen to Bloodfest the podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to Bloodfest the podcast. I'm your host, Nate. Y'all know me, know what I do for a living. I'm joined tonight, as always, by my good friend Josh. Josh, how are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. I'm supposed to be like third. What are you doing?
I know, I'm
This is out
mixing
of
it up.
order.
I'm mixing it up.
Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
and also, I'm joined by Casey. Casey, what's going down?
Not much, just happy to be here, like normal.
And as always, our technical director Joey is over here but refuses to be on camera because his pretty face will drive you all mad. Say hi, Joey.
Hey everybody, hey Larry, good to have you on.
Hey, Joe.
We are super excited to bring you an amazing guest tonight. The absolute master of horror, Larry Fessenden, is joining us. Larry, I want to thank you so much for being here. So how's the world treating you?
All is well. I'm in the East Coast and hanging in there.
Yeah. Oh yeah, how's the weather out there?
It's all right.
All right.
Wintry mix. That's the new kind of weather we have.
Wintry mix. We had a little bit of that a couple of days ago. So we're in Kansas and Missouri. So we're right in the middle of the country, and we've gotten a little fun weather. So the very first thing I want to talk to you about tonight, Larry. So it's actually a movie that was never made. So you wrote and you were set to direct a remake of The Orphanage that was going to be produced by Guillermo del Toro, but then I guess the studio kind of wimped out on it and pulled the plug, which was a huge disappointment, honestly. So what I'm really curious about, do you see any future for you and del Toro to work again at some point together? And also, if there's a second season of his Cabinet of Curiosities over at Netflix, do you think you'll be involved in that?
Well, maybe. I mean, he wrote me recently and said for sure. That little, I guess it was a tweet or maybe it was a interview, but it was a surprise to me, but very sweet to read that. So Guillermo and I, we worked very closely on Orphanage for a year or so. And then I was in The Strain as an actor, which was just a way to sort of continue our relationship. Then we didn't talk much for a while, and then he made that tweet or whatever it was, interview. So and then I was in contact with him when he was promoting Pinocchio very recently in New York, and he said for sure he'd bring me on board if we did Cabinets again. Now I don't know. Netflix has their own way of making decisions. It's unclear if the show will go through. But anyway, Guillermo is a lovely guy and very supportive. He's often saying nice things about my old film habit. And he's just a great presence in all of our lives,
He seems like the type of guy who really cares about supporting other creatives and helping people and making sure people get noticed. So I know that you're the same kind of guy. In fact, that's going to make me jump way ahead in my questions because I wanted to ask you about. So you were kind of a mentor to Ty West and Kelly Reichardt and Jim Mickle. Do you feel like as someone of your stature in the community that you have a responsibility to do that for younger creators to kind of support them and help them along the way and make sure people know about them?
Well, it's just the way I'm wired, and I always like to say that I make a certain type of genre film, but I have a lot of enthusiasm for other ways of making movies. So I just really enjoy seeing other filmmakers reach their potential. And with Mickle, I really loved his early films, and he wanted to be, my coffee boy. It's so sweet. Some of these old emails that he wrote, Dear Mr. Fessenden and all of this. And I was in his first film. Then when I had the opportunity, I had some money from MPI, which is a Chicago-based genre factory. And I thought of Mickle, and I thought, I wonder if he could step up and do this show. As for Ty, I met him out of college. He was an intern of mine.
Oh, okay.
Really liked his work, his shorts, and I say, hey kid, if you ever graduate and want to make a feature, come, let's talk. So, and Kelly, she cast me in a movie, and then I ended up helping her edit. So they're very organic relationships, but it has to do with my enthusiasm for movies. I just love the process, and you can't be the director of every movie, but you can be involved in getting other people to do their best work.
So, like a couple of years ago, Kelly had a movie nominated for the Oscars. Ty is like everywhere right now with X and Pearl, and Maxine is coming, so he's like dominating the conversation. When you see that from someone that you kind of helped along, do you feel like a great sense of pride? Do you feel like that's partially your accomplishment too?
A little bit, especially the ones that Ty is very, he just, well, all of these guys we're talking about, there's a continuity. They still call me and ask me to read their scripts, and I'm not saying that I'm essential to their process, but there's a friendship, there's an acknowledgement of our past together, and that is gratifying, like any kind of parental figure. I enjoy it, and I was in a lot of Ty's movies. I was in the Western he did with Travolta, and it was very sweet that he asked me. He had to fight for me because I'm not known to the studios. So, yeah, it's very nice. And same with Kelly. She always is very kindly mentions me in her talks because we did start out together, and I gave her a lot of advice about filmmaking.
Okay. So I wanted to shift gears just a little bit. So back at the beginning, one of your first features, Habit, was your take on the vampire mythos. And then a couple of years ago, you gave us Depraved, which was your Frankenstein story. I know Blackout, that's coming out later this year. Do we have a release date on that?
No. I mean, I haven't quite finished it, but, I got to sell it.
Okay.
I'm still just selling my wares like a lot of indie filmmakers.
So I know that's your werewolf movie. What I'm wondering is, are you creating kind of your own version of the Universal Monsters universe? Is that something that you feel like you want to do, or what you're doing?
It is what I'm doing, isn't it?
Yeah. So are we going to see more of it?
What's that?
Are we going to see more, or is there going to be Larry Fessenden's The Mummy, or Larry Fessenden's The Invisible Man, or?
Everyone always asks about the Mummy.
Yes, the Mummy's amazing.
I'm not making a mummy movie.
Okay. Well, what about The Invisible Man or Creature from the Black Lagoon?
Oh, well, that would be quite special. I had a great Invisible Man project. It was just me producing for the filmmaker J.T. Petty. Mm-hmm. It was incredible. We fought very hard, and I actually did eventually get the money, but he had sort of moved on. It took so long. Anyway, that's a disappointment because it was great. Creature, sure, I'd love to do it. I got to figure out how to do the suit. I did make a movie for called Hypothermia with my filmmaker friend James McKinney made that. But my own journey is to make a sequel to Blackout, if anyone will have it, and I intend to possibly have all my monsters in one movie. So that would be fun.
Awesome. Oh, that would be awesome. Awesome. So, have you given any thought to, so you obviously you produce a lot through Glass Eye Pictures and Scare Flicks. Have you thought about ever letting some young upcoming filmmaker jump into your universe, like letting someone make their continuation of Habit, where we can find that there were other vampires in New York? I mean, assuming that Anna's actually a vampire, but where someone else could build on that. Is that something you've ever given any thought to?
I haven't thought of that exactly, but anything's possible. I mean, I it's an organic process making movies, and you have to find the money and the right people and the right passion and a good script and all the usual things to make something happen. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't want a whole bunch of people sending me Habit scripts, but anything's possible. Sure, man.
Hey, Joey,
I just
throw away that script I gave you. Don't.
Yeah, Joey, come on, don't.
I'm burning it now. It's going in the trash.
Damn. Well, all right. Send it up.
So your film. So I generally, people talk about all the subgenres of horror, and I generally think whatever the subgenre, you can split horror into two categories: movies that are just meant to be scary or gory or something, but movies that are actually about something, social commentary. And I see your films as that class of movies. So Last Winter is ecological horror. It's about how we're destroying the planet and the ways that the planet might fight back. Wendigo talks about the horrors of colonialism, the spread of empire, and how that affected native populations and how it affects us still today. It feels like most of your films, or many of your films at least, carry kind of a rebuttal of American exceptionalism. So my question is, how important is the social commentary, the larger subject? When you sit down to write, do you start with, I want to make a movie that's telling everyone about this problem, or do you think of a story and then the commentary develops as you're writing and as you're making the film?
Well, I don't want to keep using this word, but it's all holistic. In other words, so you make a werewolf movie. I mean, I love monsters. So if I'm going to make a werewolf movie, I think about what is the werewolf metaphor kind of mean? How is it relevant? And, the reality is that the reason we always talk about remakes being annoying is that there's the feeling that people are just cashing in on old ideas. Whereas what we want to see is a movie that's relevant to the moment, that comes from not necessarily the news or the, God forbid, the current politics, but that comes from the concerns and fears of the day. I mean, remember, that's the beauty of horror. You have Godzilla because there was an atom bomb dropped on, those nice folks. And then so they sort of try to deal with it by coming up with a metaphor. And that's true just endlessly through the horror genre. And so I want to make movies that feel current, that feel urgent to the moment, and yet have some fun. So I don't sit down and say, what is the issue of the day? I'm going to make a movie about the crisis of taxation. But yeah, I think horror is so exciting because it should feel vital to the moment.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so staying in that same vein with social commentary, personally, I'm a big fan of zombie movies, the ones that are done well, Romero, for instance, because it seems like the zombie metaphor has a lot of elasticity and it can be used for a lot of that type of commentary. Do you think there's ever a chance that we're going to see you tackle a zombie film, that we'll see the Larry Fessenden zombie movie?
Absolutely. I have the script.
Oh, outstanding.
I couldn't get it produced, but I don't always try hard enough. Anyway, it's a great script, and I could come back to it. And they're not quite zombies, but they're a lot of trouble, and you obviously know that you're in a kind of a zombie genre. So, yeah, and then naturally, I also produced Stakeland, which is apocalyptic. It has a political vibe, but those aren't zombies; they're vampires. Go figure. But the point is, and zombies, of course, starting with Romero. Night of the Living Dead is certainly one of my very favorite movies, and the sort of the vibe of that, it captures the dissatisfaction from the late 60s, the sense of despair and just the feeling of collapse. Little did they know where we were all headed, but back in the 60s, it almost seems quaint, but we had Vietnam and racial strife, and the cities were on fire, and so this was such an amazing response without being preachy. I mean, that's what's great about Romero, and he continued to be political in his work, obviously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Crazies, Dawn of the Dead, both powerful, powerful political films.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Big fan of Romero. So to get a little darker, so as I said before, I see a big rebuttal of American exceptionalism in a lot of your work. Colonialism, the effects of Manifest Destiny still playing out today. So we look at the news this week, and we see what happened with the police in Mississippi, with them beating a black man to death, and we all had to see that. And it feels like that's a story that we see almost every week from somewhere in this country. Do you, as an artist, do you feel like you have a responsibility to raise the alarm about where we are and what's going wrong in the country?
Well, I wouldn't say it is every artist's responsibility. It's just as much as I love genre and whatever version of escapism that implies, I'm also very engaged in, like, how do you build a good society? What are the choices that we all should be making? And, you know, what are the things that we value? What is the meaning of life? You know, there's just, for whatever reason, I find these to be essential things to be thinking about. You know, I hang out with friends and we rage about this or that. And so that creeps in my films. And even if I want to tell a werewolf story, I'm going to think about the relevance. So, yeah, I just don't quite see art without an engagement with the bigger issues of, you know, the meaning of life and all that stuff. I mean, what's the point of it all?
Yeah.
I mean, I just have an existential perspective. And so I'm always trying to understand, why don't we get along better? Why are people mean to each other? You know, what's the corruption? What has capitalism done to our brains? Whatever, AI, all these things, you know, and they're all turned into horror, unfortunately. In other words, I just think the human experiment is constantly derailing.
Yeah.
Why I make horror movies. I would love to make comedies, and, you know, but even some of the best comedies also are getting at certain truths that you're not alive if you're not struggling with the way life is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And comedy, getting into social commentary, I mean, that goes all the way back to, well, probably before, but the Marx Brothers. Movies like Duck Soup. Yeah, just absolutely. Duck Soup is a brutal satire. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's, you know, you have to satirize the powers that be, the people in power. I mean, now they do it for themselves. They're such clowns.
Yeah.
But that itself is a tragedy of modern life, is that everybody has sort of become a media star. So we have our politicians are, you know, like stand-up comedians with shtick and, you know, saying outrageous things. And actually one of the, you know, you talk about writing a horror movie, like, what's going on with the idea of truth? You know, I feel that there's a certain smugness because we have such a modern world and we're not out there hunting every day. So everybody's just sitting around on their phones and just creating mayhem. They're not really appreciating the sweetness of life itself. So anyway, all this makes me very annoyed.
It's like so many people are just missing being alive. Honestly, I honestly agree with you 100% on that. So a follow-up question: we live in a broken society. Do you think we're going to get better? Do you think we can fix this?
No, but if you don't try, you're not engaged. You know, I always say, look, the boat is sinking, but you got to bail.
Yeah.
To give yourself purpose, to engage. But I guess there are other responses to disaster, which is to party like it's 1999, you know, which, I mean, I believe in a little of that too, but no, I think you have to keep fighting for what's right and what's good. And you know, you have to keep redefining that. It's not like there's some easy thing that people are missing. It's just, it's a struggle. This is what life is about: survival and the search for grace and dignity, and, you know, blah, 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 pursuit of love. I mean, it's all cliches. Everything I'm saying is a cliche, but
they're true. So
they're true.
Yeah. Oh,
That's why they're cliches.
exactly. So to get less depressing, so you have
Oh
gotten
no, please.
Let's keep going.
you've gotten a lot of acclaim in your career. You've won tons of awards. Your film The Last Winners in the permanent collection at the Museum of Modern Art, which is seems like an amazing thing to me. I don't know how many movies make it there, and especially something that could be considered a genre movie. Do you think the awards, the acclaim, are those important to you at all? Is there a part of you that ever thinks, well, when will I win that Oscar?
No, I don't think about whatever. I mean, look, the reality is that my drama is I have this acclaim and I appreciate it very much. And, they say icon in front of my name.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know, they just started doing that. I got like a Lifetime Achievement Award at Sitges, which is a great festival in Spain. When I was in my 40s, I don't really understand. I think it's because I did mentor a number of great up-and-coming filmmakers and so on. But what I'm trying to say, without self-pity, is that it's still getting financed is not easy for me, and I make very small films because I haven't advanced even the way Ty now has.
That's so weird to me. I guess I don't understand Hollywood at all because if I talk to any serious horror fan, if I say your name, they'll immediately name one of your films. I mean, they may not be able to sit there and list your entire filmography, but they'll say, oh, Wendigo, that was an amazing film, blew my mind. Or, have you seen Last Winter, right? And I would think that would count for something for, the money men.
Not really. I mean, the bottom line is if your movies don't make a lot of money, you're in one category and you can have acclaim and affection and a little pat on the head, but it doesn't lead to a more substantial budget. So, I mean, as I say, I'm not complaining, but I'm just making it clear that it's not easy street and that but I get the deal. It's a business, as they like to say. It's a business. There's the business of show.
Yeah.
So if you don't have a bona fide hit, and it's funny. You read press about Ty, and they're like, oh, that poor little film, House of the Devil,
Mm-hmm.
which is on like the best 100 horror films ever made lists, but they're like, oh, but nobody saw that movie because it's so tiny, and you just like you realize. The other thing about Marvel and Netflix is that they've distorted our sense of what a movie is or a success is. I mean, I grew up in the 70s, full disclosure, I'm an old man now, but there was this idea of smaller films and there was art films. I mean, I don't know how much money Truffaut made or whoever you want to mention, but I'm just saying things have changed, the calculus about how we talk about success, and unfortunately the Marvel universe has just completely distorted everything. It was amazing when a movie made $100 million like Jaws. They put out a thing in Variety saying, hey, Steven, congrats, you made it to the promised land. But now you gotta tickle $1 billion like Maverick or The Lord of the Rings or something. Well, of course those are all fun movies, but I don't know. There's something about the Marvel thing that's getting on my nerves at this point.
They've wrecked. So I'm about 10 years younger than you, so I'm still old enough to remember when movies used to come out, and you would hear that a movie was coming out. But I lived in a small town, so it wasn't playing in the theater here. I knew it was going to be in the big cities, and in a few months it would make it to my town, and I could see it. And movies had time to build an audience and to grow. And now it's a weekend. A movie's a big hit that first weekend or it's gone, and that's it, and that's all there is to it. And I don't think there's any room for smaller films to really to survive in that atmosphere.
Yeah, it's just very tragic. And the weird thing now, what with COVID and Netflix, I don't know which is more of a pandemic, but it's like you don't even know when a movie comes out or if it's actually out, and then our viewing habits have changed. I'll stay at home and say I'll watch The Whale on TV. Is it all?
Yeah.
But then you're like, but I want to respect that it's a first run movie. In other words, the whole model of movie going is also so fractured now. You just don't know where a movie is available. You want to celebrate by going to the theater, but then is it, blah blah blah. So it's just confusing.
Yeah, I've been sitting in mostly empty theaters recently when I go see movies, which is
that's
insane.
the good thing about the pandemic. It's actually great going to the movies.
Yeah, it actually is kind of. It kind of is. I always liked like matinees on a Sunday because there's just very few people unless you were seeing a kids movie. So those are always fun. It's nice.
Well, I'm the same way, and I like to go to movies alone. I mean, obviously, I have my wife and my kid, and we go to movies. But when I was younger, I would go to New York, and I lived in New York, and you'd go to rep houses, and you'd see a double feature of movies that were just 5 years old, but they were now in the theater, sort of being rerun, and it was just fantastic. That was a great life.
Yeah. See, and it seems like most of the art house theaters are starting to disappear too. We still, luckily, here we have a very nice one called the Book House. That's nice, but they just have the one screen, and they're very small, little family owned. So they're only open 4 days a week, and they can't play a lot of movies, and they get really interesting stuff. Not necessarily when it was first released. A lot of times it's months later, but it's great to have ones because so many smaller towns just don't.
Oh yeah, that's fantastic, man. You gotta support those theaters. It's really a great experience. Oh, the irony is that, of course, sometimes their equipment doesn't work.
Yeah.
And it's that whole thing. You're like, I could have been watching this at home. My TV's bigger than the screen anyway.
And we're really lucky. We have 2 drive-in theaters.
Yeah, we have 2 drive-ins around here.
I
love going
there.
Yeah, drive-ins are great. They remind me of being a little kid.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. And I feel like drive-ins, well, first of all, they came back in the pandemic for sure, which was fantastic. It really was. But we have a number of them upstate, and it's just, it's such a great vibe.
It's so nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
It just takes me back to my childhood.
Yeah. That's my parents taking me to see a double feature of E.T. and Starman, and being so young that I didn't see all of Starman because I fell asleep less than halfway through. But still, it was great.
Yeah. Oh, I fall asleep in movies all the time now. That's how I take it in.
That is the one good thing about watching at home. If you start too late and you're tired, you can stop it. I can finish it tomorrow. It's okay.
That's right. Yeah, it's good stuff. I mean, it's important in these conversations about, the death of cinema and all that. The reality is that I just don't feel they always make the point that our TVs are considerably bigger and our sound system. So it's not like the old days. You were watching the TV and trying to adjust the antenna. I mean, you are having an experience and an engagement. And my son, he's 22 now, but he grew up watching movies at home. He watched The Lord of the Rings every night for, years, I suppose. So, and he likes to watch movies in the house. That's part of his memory of. And this is a kid who watches all the way through the end credits. In other words, he loved movies and cinema and the whole thing. So, you don't want to get too crusty and just say everything's terrible.
Yeah, that's true.
So, you, throughout your career as an actor, you have worked with a massive array of interesting directors. Jim Jarmusch, you've worked with a couple of times. Scorsese, Neil Jordan, Adam Wingard, Jeremy Gardner, who I'm a big fan of, Travis Stevens, who's having a real moment now. A Wounded Fawn just came out, and we actually had Sarah Lind on the show right before that came out.
Oh, okay.
So do you feel like, do directors like working with you because you're a director, so you know what they're going through? Do you feel like that makes you a better actor to work with directors?
Uh, I well, if I'm understanding the question, I do feel like I understand the acting experience. I'm extremely sympathetic. I consider it a very harrowing experience being an actor. You're especially when you're supposed to cry on cue
Oh,
and
yeah.
all this deep engagement that you associate with some of the great performances. Um, yeah, I mean it's a weird psychological thing. So I really enjoy directing actors because I can speak candidly to them, and it's a little side thing of mine. But if I want to have somebody do a sex scene, I'm like, well, I've done that too, and I know this is a sort of a technical, and it's slightly embarrassing, and it's not as so there's a great deal of empathy that I can bring to an actor's experience, and then flipping the question, I'm not sure what you asked, but being on other people's movies is unbelievable, and seeing how other directors work is so cool. And I can't seem to get it on IMDb, but I'm in the new Scorsese movie, which was incredible because, of course, he's my favorite director, and I worked with him for several days. And,
The one that takes place in Oklahoma, that one? Oh,
yeah.
okay, okay. What do you play? Who do you play in that?
Well, I'm in the coda. It's a small role, and we'll see. I'm pretty sure it's in the movie. I'm told it's still in the movie, but all I'm saying is that there's just nothing like working for your mentor. It's not like seeing, meeting him is obviously lovely, but to just be helping him create his vision, it's just an amazing privilege, and of course all the way he works at his age as well, and so on. So that's great. And then Jarmusch has been really kind to have me back, and I got to hang out with Bill Murray and Adam Driver. I mean, these are, and then, but even Ty, I got to hang out with Travolta, which was really cool, as well as Ethan Hawke. But just in terms of people I grew up loving,
Yeah.
it's very cool.
Yeah, yeah. Who, when you're working as an actor, do you have a favorite director you like working with, or?
Marty.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I mean, what are we talking
It makes
about?
sense. Yeah, I mean.
The coolest guy in the world. And he's very smart, extremely smart. So
Yeah.
it's you're just aware that you're in the presence of literally historically awesome dude.
When you read his writing on film, you kind of realize, oh, if he weren't making movies, he'd be a film historian, because he
Exactly.
really is.
That's the thing. You're talking about three-dimensional engagement.
Yeah.
And actually, it's also sweet that he recently has been very supportive of Ty's movies. Well, anyway, Pearl, but he started by seeing X, and that's just also lovely. This is sort of the idea of a continuum between the work I'm doing, and then Ty has this Scorsese experience, and Kelly has traveled amazingly. She's been judges at Cannes, or maybe that's not true, but some of the big festivals. So it's just fun. I'm just in a community of groovy people.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm just the little guy at this point, but it's awesome.
You're the big guy in my mind. Just
That's
no
because
joke.
I make horror movies, and everybody thinks horror movies are so silly.
So, you worked with Barbara Crampton not that long ago on Jacob's Wife, and so that was really neat for me because you're both royalty in the world of horror. Barbara is not only just a huge star, but I follow her on Twitter, and I can tell you on Twitter she's just the most fun person and someone who seems to be uplifting other people constantly.
Yeah.
What's it like working with her?
Well, I just love Barbara. We did a movie previously called We Are Still Here.
Oh, that's right. I have seen that. Totally forgot.
Yeah, and that's her movie. She's really got a lot of water to carry in that picture, and I just have a small role. But the other reason that we're pals is that we do these radio plays called Tales from Beyond the Pale, and
Yeah.
she's done more than one of those. So when we're all find ourselves at the same film festival, you know, we would do that. So we've worked a lot together, and then she's in my werewolf movie.
Oh, outstanding! I can't
Nice.
wait for this.
Yeah.
You know, she just does a day. It's a strange film because it's like a series of episodes. So there's a lot of actors that appear very briefly, but she was fantastic. And, you know, it was a bit of a puzzle to get her on the show, but she's just lovely. And so she's a real pal.
So when you're directing, you attract some really interesting talent. Obviously, Ron Perlman, Connie Britton, Jake Weber, Patricia Clarkson, Doug Jones. What do you think draws actors of that stature to your films?
Oh, I don't know. It's if they have a free moment. No, I'm not sure. I think the scripts are trying to be realistic and psychologically true. So I think there's something there for an actor. I mean, Perlman famously in my mind, he said that he was reading the script for The Last Winter on his trip to Iceland to join us for the shoot. And he was apparently going, you know, I gotta talk. Yeah, I'd never met him.
Yeah.
We talked on the phone. He's like, I gotta talk to this kid. I don't know what these lines are. It's so loosey-goosey. There's nothing that tracks. So he was excited to make some changes. But then he said when he was performing it, that it sort of came alive. So what I'm trying to say is that I think my writing is very fun for actors because it's so low key. There's no agenda to the scene that we're trying to advance a plot. It's just you kind of live in it. And then obviously this is my trick is that's all well and good. That sounds kind of like an indie movie, but no, it's also a monster film.
Yeah.
So that's the tension, is to do like a genre thing, but do it so sort of realistically and almost off the cuff. And anyway, that's just what interests me. I'm always saying, what would it really be like to meet a vampire, to create the Frankenstein monster in Brooklyn? So I'm saying I think that can be fun for actors once they realize, oh, I see, I'm really just trying to get as real as possible in this moment, even though maybe the subtext is fantastic.
How important do you think casting is to the filmmaking process? Is it, I mean, do you feel like, so I've heard some people say if you cast the right actor, that's 80% of the job. But then I've seen other people say, well, I can cast basically anyone with a minimum amount of talent and direct them into the role. Are either of those right? Is it somewhere in between?
Oh, I think in life, almost everything's somewhere in between. But I do think casting, well, of course, there are two answers to this, back to the issue of it's a business.
Yeah.
So you do want to cast name actors for the reason of financing. And also, I mean, I watch a lot of old movies and stuff, and I'll always watch a Cary Grant movie. In other words, I do like movie stars. And you know, obviously we all love Karloff, and so I'm sorry I'm naming such old people, but whatever. I also like modern people too. But the point is so part of me is just like a Hollywood kid. I mean, I in other words, I like movie stars. They're movie stars for a reason. But then the other thing is like seeing a good naturalistic performance is so electrifying. And that can come from an unknown or just a regular player. And so the bottom line is that acting is one of the great pleasures in a movie. So you want that to really sparkle. I'm very tickled by my new film because there's so many actors who appear briefly that it's almost like a portrait of the art of acting, because each one performs differently. Like Barbara is, like you say, sort of a classic sort of 80s scream queen who's certainly brought so much nuance as she's gotten older. But then I have people like Kevin Corrigan, who's such an eccentric character. Uh, Joe Swanberg, who's kind of the mumblecore, that kind of realism. Anyway, it's just fun to see all the different styles, everybody kind of presenting in a different way.
So, is there any actor that you would think is like your favorite to work with? Who's the best actor you've worked with, I guess, is the...
Oh, I don't know. That's incredibly hard. I mean, some of my go-to guys like John Sparadakis, he's in Wendigo and in many, many subsequent films. And of course, Tales from Beyond the Pale is a great, I don't know if your listeners know that show, but it's really fun. Now it's a podcast. So talesfrombeyondthepale.com.
We will have that in the show notes and on our website.
Great, because I'm very proud of it. I do it with Glenn McQuaid, but many, many artists are involved in terms of writers and directors, and then lots of great actors. I mean, Doug Jones.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He was unbelievable.
Yeah.
We did a TV show. It was a very brief, like 6-day shoot. He just brought it. And, at the time I said, Doug, you won't have any makeup. That was kind of my pitch to him. Because he's always
in, yeah. That's gonna be a big deal to him. People never see his face. I'm sure, as famous as he is, as many great movies as he's in, I'm sure he never gets recognized on the street.
Yeah, that's probably true.
Yeah.
And yet here he is. He's so fantastic, and it's one of my best pieces just because he's so good. And once again, just doing a very, very stark Wendigo story. Of course, it's a Wendigo story. So, yeah, but I'm not going to choose my favorite people. I work with James LeGros a great deal, and I always enjoy that.
He's awesome.
Yeah, and so I really love actors because it's a very vulnerable job, and it's also craft. And, then there's all sorts of little fun things about it, whether if you're good at continuity, what you're tracking, or if you're just deep in. So there are different types of performers, and I just find it delightful. And when you yell action, it belongs to the actors.
Yeah.
They do their bit. And if they deliver, it is the greatest privilege to have captured that on your video machine or your film or whatever you got going.
So, your work as a producer, something I was glancing at your IMDb the other day, getting ready for this, and one thing stood out to me as, oh, that's different. So you're a producer on Rick Alverson's The Mountain, which I think is a wonderful film, but boy, it seemed far outside the part of the map you are normally exploring. Can I ask how you got involved in that project?
Well, I very much produced the comedy, which is Rick's, I don't know, third film, but I had an associate who brought me Rick's film, this script called The Comedy, which I love to say is a horror film, but it's not that I need everything to be a horror film, but it's a story of a sort of a chubby white guy with a great deal of privilege, and it was captures a certain moment before Me Too and even the woke thing, and yet it's pushing up against all of that because he's this dude in the movie played by Tim and Eric are both in it. It's a really challenging, wonderful movie, and Rick is so smart. And then, we just wanted to keep on together. And so I was involved tangentially, less and less directly. In other words, Glass Eye made the comedy, but then he made The Mountain and what's it called? One other film in there. Oh, Entertainer.
Oh,
Entertainer. Which I was also a little involved in. And I'm in The Mountain, actually, briefly.
Yeah.
And I got to hang out with, what's his name? It was really fun. Well, who's the star of
Goldblum or...
Goldblum.
Yeah.
Well, I'm the kid, but Goldblum was kind of iconic. I sort of spent a whole day with him, and I found him just so fascinating and fun.
Do you have a favorite horror movie?
Well, as I say, I usually cite Night of the Living Dead. Um, it's just, it's so visceral. It's so bleak. And I also like to say that it was sort of the fulcrum between the old movies I watched, black and white, Frankenstein, this and that. And then one night I watched it and I was like, whoa, this is a black and white scary movie. The music is scary in the beginning. There's a graveyard. And then it just got more and more bleak. And I felt like it fractured my brain. And I realized, oh, this is the future of horror. This is something different. This doesn't feel safe, whereas Frankenstein, as much as I loved it and was very scared by Frankenstein as a kid, it just was a different animal. So I always cite that. But where do you begin? I also like Henry Serial Killer and The Shining, obviously. But so, there's the movies that are just slightly unbearable, like Henry.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only seen it maybe twice. There's Man Bites Dog. There's a number of really fucking brutal movies that
Man Bites Dog is insane. I don't even know how they got away with that. And it's a comedy. That's the part that kills me, is it's actually funny.
Well, it's also great if you're a filmmaker, because the whole idea, like, well, we're really sorry that Michael got killed, and we're going to dedicate the rest of the movie, but we must keep going. All this. So really, it's, as you say, it's a great satire. And then, I don't know. I'm really curious to see Skinnamarink or whatever the fuck.
Oh yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious about that damn thing too. I heard someone saying that it's non-narrative, which is interesting to me.
Well, I love the idea. I mean, this is the thing about horror, is it's the one place that you can make art films.
Yeah.
In other words, I think, and it's rude, but I don't know the name of it, Skinnamarink. I think it's just, it's just very, very impressionistic, and I think that's really exciting. Just like I like for heaven's sakes, what's the Jason Blum, his original film, that.
What was his first one? Oh,
you know what I mean.
Paranormal Activity.
Yeah, that also like a weird comment on cinema, because it slowed everything down. We were so deep into the Saw movies and all the, the fast cutting and the extreme this and that. And then suddenly, let's just put a camera out here and just watch somebody standing there by the bed, and you're like, nah!
Yeah. It feels like it's an answer to the Michael Bay-ification of movies, where everything is moving so fast you don't know what's going on anymore, and the camera can never sit.
Those are fun, and I feel like horror has the power to reset, just like Blair Witch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun, but whatever. The Shining, you can't really deny, is just one of the eternal films. It's like The Godfather. If The Shining's on TV, you're gonna watch it.
Yeah. I watch it every year on Christmas Day.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
Now there's a tradition.
Yeah, and then we watch Jaws on the 4th of July. So that's our.
I noticed. I don't know if you noticed, but you quoted Jaws.
Yes.
Earlier.
Yeah, that's
Was that on purpose?
Yeah, that's my quint. If I had a blackboard, I'd pull my fingernails across it, but yeah, that's my one little fun go-to for my catchphrase, I guess.
Well, just so you know, I caught it. Jaws is it is my favorite movie. I don't know. Are you aware of that?
No.
Nice.
I love it.
So nice.
Oh, I love it. So Jaws ruined my life because my parents took me to the drive-in to see it when I was 4, and I was too young to have a solid memory to know that I had seen a movie, but I grew up afraid of water because I had seen a little boy being eaten by a shark, and I did not know that was in a movie until I was like 12. and saw it on TV and went, I didn't see that. It was a movie. So yeah, Jaws ruined my life and also became one of my favorite movies.
Well, it is my favorite movie, and everyone knows it. And this is a Christmas card, a birthday card someone sent me.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Very cool.
That is awesome. I love that.
And I built a Jaws boat. Remember, this was the 70s, so there was no pictures anywhere. There was no internet. And I built it. It's 6 or 7 feet long.
Nice.
Oh, damn.
It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. So I know that you made a short film called Jaws, but I've not been able to track it down to see exactly what it is, and I didn't find any information about exactly what that film is.
Well, all it is that boat I just described.
Okay.
I did eventually, I put it in the water. This was in Cape Cod, and I brought my Super 8 camera, and I took some images of it. And then my friend was supposed to come, and I had built a 4-foot shark, but he never showed up. So there's no shark in my Jaws movie. It's a little bit of a buzzkill, I'll be honest.
Well,
that's kind
like
of
a lot
like-
of shark.
Yeah.
Modern shark movies are like that.
Yeah, the shark's never actually there. So
Yeah.
Well, also they're CGI, so they're
Yeah.
not fun.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So. Mine wasn't CGI; it was actually paper mache, which I would personally recommend that you don't make a shark out of paper mache. But I was a kid; I didn't know what was going on.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you're talking to people who all think that practical effects are 100% the way to go in horror, and that most digital effects are bad. So honestly, I might go for a paper mache shark because at least it's an object that has weight and space, and you can tell something's there.
I agree. I agree. But I like movies like
Nice.
I like the Godzilla films and the Jurassic Park, even though the truly spectacular effects are practical. But they're pretty good at. So it's. I guess my point is giant reptiles. I don't mind being CGI.
Yeah.
But don't you go near werewolves or anything. I don't know, in our world.
Yeah.
Then it's just a disaster.
They never move right. It's like
Yeah.
I saw, and I don't know if you ever saw them, but I got drug along to see the first Harry Potter movie with some family members, and the movie was looking okay, but there's like a troll or something, and it picks up one of the kids and swings him, and I immediately went, is the child made of rubber? Why is it moving like that? That's not how a thing with bones moves.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's Harry Potter?
Yeah, it was one of the Harry Potter movies,
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't remember that.
Well, I watched all of those because my son was that age. I mean, that was a good time to grow up, believe me.
Oh, yeah.
You had Harry Potter and Lord of the Rings. Both, obviously, CGI movies.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's why I'm not as... It's kind of like on the level of gore and werewolves and things like that I prefer the practical. And, the shark...
Yeah.
You can feel it. But as I say, I'm forgiving of the giant monster movies, and I was a fan of the King Kong by...
Oh, Jackson. Peter
Yeah,
Jackson's I thought that was really good, yeah.
And, and the Planet of the Apes.
Oh, yeah. Those
that
most recent
reboot?
3? Oh, yeah.
Fucking amazing. It's underrated. That is one of the great series ever. And the best thing is they just stopped.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. They did exactly the cycle, and they were done. And those movies. So I didn't want them. So I love the original Planet of the Apes, and I'm okay with most of the sequels. They're not that great. And they're doing this, and then the Tim Burton one was not good. They're doing this, and I thought, no, that's a waste of time. They shouldn't do it. But then I saw the first one and went, oh, never mind. This actually justifies its existence.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then the subsequent ones are actually fucking really cool.
Yeah.
That Tim Burton movie is discouraging because I've always had a little man crush on Marky Mark, but he's so bad in that.
Oh, he is. He is.
And then, but actually, Tim Roth is, I mean, he's great, and the makeup is really cool. I think it's Rick Baker.
Yeah. And Tim Roth is always good. I don't think I've ever seen him give a bad performance.
Yeah.
Yeah, not the type of guy that phones it in. So I wanted to shift gears again on you. So an interview I read from you from a few years ago, you had said that you felt exhausted with humanity. Do you still feel that way?
Are you kidding? More than ever.
That's what I thought.
I'm sorry. As soon as humanity gets their act together, I'm on their team. But this is a train wreck, and as I say, it comes from a sense of a strange elitism of the modern man, that there's nothing, somehow there's food on the table, there's supermarkets with endless amounts of food, and I'm not saying an individual person isn't struggling with their finances, but the bottom line is that we're a privileged species, and we're so wasteful. It's mind-blowing. And look, I'm not a communist, but capitalism needs to be given a little slap in the face, in my opinion. And that's true in the arts. It's true in everything. It's what we've talked about. They just keep raising the stakes. Like now, Marvel is the only way to talk about movies. That's just a disaster because. Yeah.
Oh,
anyway.
and when someone like Scorsese comes out and says, "I don't think that's cinema," and then I get 6 weeks of the entire internet losing its mind about how Scorsese's an old man who doesn't know anything.
Yeah, you know what?
He made
he's
Goodfellas.
making a point.
Yeah.
All he's saying is that I want to see surprises. That cinema and art is something that is you are not supposed to be complacent. And we all know that. I'm not saying Marvel movies are necessarily bad, but what they are is they're sort of they're also a way to insert cultural agendas into the, I guess, the genre of the superhero thing. I don't know, whatever, dude. I find superhero a little tiresome, even though I like monsters. So it's also a matter of taste.
So they have made me bored of superheroes.
Honestly,
there's too much. I like superhero movies, and I have thought several of the Marvel movies were quite good, but there are too many. It's too much, and they've made it where I can no longer say, "Oh, they did a Captain America movie. That'll be fun. I'll go watch it." I need to have seen 8 movies before that. And then to get the payoff, I'll need 42 movies after that, and it becomes a chore. It's not enjoyment anymore.
It is. It's frustrating, and I was right there in the beginning. I remember the Avengers was amazing.
Yeah,
was that the second one maybe? Oh well, there was Iron Man, and then I don't know, Iron Man 2, and then the Avengers, and you're like, oh wow, this is cool. We're going to see the new Hulk.
Yeah,
because I saw the Ang Lee Hulk, which was, I thought, bananas, and not as some people hated it, but I thought it was kind of fun. And on it goes. It's like I'm not allergic to superheroes, but now you can't get out from under it. It's too much.
Yeah, and all the other movies are kind of now modeling themselves after the Marvel movie. And honestly, it's the same thing that happened after Michael Bay got really big, and we saw 100 movies that all looked like a Michael Bay movie, and I just wanted to rip my eyes out. Hopefully, the way that passed, this will pass. We'll get some normal time before the next thing does it.
Yeah, I mean, then there's the tragedy, in my opinion, of TV providing that. I'm just not a guy who, and of course, then there's the exception, and I watch a series. But basically, I'm resentful of giving so much of my time to a series. Now, if it's something you love, and it's a great pleasure to say, oh, great, there's a new episode this week. So I get it. But just as a sort of a regular diet of these 12 episode or, God forbid, 3-5 seasons, it's a lot of time drain.
Yeah.
I always use the example of Fargo. It was obviously a good TV show. My wife loved it, and this and that. But I'll watch the movie over and over.
Yeah.
I'd have a fine time watching a 90-minute movie that's that concise and memorable.
I feel like the streaming services especially they're taking an idea that would make a good movie, and it might make a pretty good stretched out to a mini series, but they want to make it a series, and it just drags on forever. And I think Stranger Things, that first season of Stranger Things they did, that was great. That was a lot of fun. I'm so glad I saw it. I can't even watch the new one. It's too much of my time. I have movies to watch.
And American Horror Story, right? I mean,
yeah.
The first episode of that was
Yeah.
like doing crack cocaine.
Yeah.
And then it was just the first episode. And I was like, this can't go on.
So, video games. So you have written some video games in the past. Is that something that you enjoy doing? And are we going to see more of that? More video games from you?
I doubt it. It was a great experience. I caught Supermassive at the right time. They interviewed me by some weird chance. They got in touch with me, and I did an interview, and I became slightly aware by the references they were talking about that they might be making a Wendigo story. Mm-hmm. Blackwood Mountain, some of the other names, and it was just and they said, would you like to write a spec script for this project? And I said, sure. And then I immediately called my pal Graham Resnick, because I don't play video games. So he's just maybe more your age. He's 10 years younger than me, and he grew up in the 80s, and he played everything from Pac-Man on, and he'd have more interesting references. But so he's just that kind of kid. Also, we were writers together, and I produced a couple of his movies. He's a sound designer for Ty West and for some of my pictures. Anyway, so Graham and I wrote this spec script, and then we got the gig, and it was amazing. And for like 3 years, we worked on Until Dawn, and had a great time. The two dudes in charge at Supermassive, which is a British company, they were so hands-on, they were so committed, so passionate about making a horror movie into a video game. And so we all were thinking the same way. A lot of great nights out. And then we started doing the recordings. And then they said, wait, we're going to go to PlayStation 3, or was it 4? Anyway, the point is they literally scrubbed everything, and then we rewrote the whole game because now they had better motion capture, and they were going to get more nuance out of the performers, so we could strip some of the dialogue out, and it would become more and more realistic. And so we spent another year on the game, and it was a great experience. And then Graham and I wrote a sequel. Then I was in this really cool, whatever it's called, 3D one. I got a little award for that. I play a mad clown. I turned into a giant penis. You can't imagine, but it's true.
Nice.
It was fantastic. One of my greatest performances. And then we wrote a couple more, and then I kind of faded into the background, and Graham continues to work. He did the quarry.
Oh, okay.
The quarry is great. I'm a gamer, and I've been playing the quarry lately, and I love it.
Excellent. And I just have to take credit for, I always say it's not that I wrote Until Dawn, it's that I hooked Graham up, So we wrote it together, and it was a great, but the real thing, I feel like I've helped produce that because I got them the perfect writer. This kid, he knows genre, he's smart, he's funny, and he loved video games and really could track with them all the mechanisms of the game design. So there you go. We had a great run.
That's outstanding. So I have one more question, and then I think these two goofuses want to ask some stuff too. My question is, if God is real and you meet him, what do you want to say?
Yo, dude, what are you doing?
I expected that response.
Yeah. Yo, what the fuck, man?
Yo, dude, what up? my man, what are you thinking? This is bad news.
Well, have you ended us yet?
Yeah, I don't know. I got some issues with the man, but I don't know
I
if
don't
you.
think you'd be talking to him. I think you'd be leaving a voicemail because he's obviously not paying attention.
He ain't home. So, Josh, what questions do you have for our guest tonight?
You know, to be honest, I knew this is going to be your bag. Nate all week has been like, I'm going to take all the time I possibly can, and I was like, well, then I'm not going to even worry about it. But
Questions.
I did watch several this week just to get ready, and I think probably my favorite was Habit. I love that from beginning to end, just the whole story behind it. One thing that I did just love was right at the very beginning. It hooked me in because of your quote. I'm committing suicide on the installment plan. I'd never heard of that before, and then Nate was like, "No, that's a quote," and it's like that got me hooked. I was like, that's basically I thought that, but didn't think that the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I guess that is sort of my life story. That character is kind of me, and hopefully not quite that pathetic, but pretty close. And it's a very personal story. And I've always been a drinker, and I knew that it was. I don't smoke anymore, but I've just had a low level relationship to doing myself in slowly. Plus, there's also the psychological realities of if you're depressed or whatever my strange, alchemy is. So yeah, that was. I'm glad you noticed that line because it feels true to this day.
Until about 2.5 years ago, I was a heavy drinker too, and depression and all that stuff, and I ended up getting a liver transplant. So now I have to deal with all of life sober. So it's dealing with this character was like kind of a call home to me. It just really just bad, in the passenger seat with you, and just went through everything.
Yeah, man. Well, Godspeed to you. Good luck with the new liver. Take care of that little item.
I am. I'm a lot more boring now, but I'm working on it.
That's all right, man.
I'm sorry. I didn't have a question. I just wanted to gush about that for a minute.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I like that touched you. It certainly was my my offering. That's what I tell the kids when I'm trying to mentor kids or advise them or something is that, Hollywood can throw a lot of great stuff at us and that's all wonderful. But the one thing that an independent filmmaker, anybody in their basement can do is tell their personal story, and that no amount of money, no writer can trump that. Tell your own story. And I think Habit is my example. Doesn't mean it has to be personal, but tell something that's truthful, that is the shock of honesty is really it doesn't require a budget.
Awesome. Casey?
Yeah, I got a few. Of everything you've been involved with, Larry, what is the one thing you've been most proud of? Like, what work are you most proud of that you've been involved with?
Well, not to be too corny, but the work I've done with my kid, because it's an expression of what I like to do, which is give people encouragement and help them find their voice. And then, naturally, my own son has made 2 films, which I'm very proud of. And so that's just sort of the closest realization of the dream. And why am I this person? It's not that I'm a nice guy or a particularly generous person, but I feel like I just wanted to put out there what I wish somebody had done for me, which is be a supporter, a mentor, and a producer. And I've surrounded myself with cool people, and they have helped me in many ways. So I'm not saying I've been unlucky, but it's quite another thing to have one of those fierce producers or somebody finding you the money, finding you the thing. But I'm sure it's my personality. Maybe I put people at a distance. I don't know. Anyway, So the answer is the kid, but any of the people I've mentored, I'm really proud that they've run with it, taken advantage of that opportunity. You know.
Yep. Sure. And then what are you passionate about outside of the film industry? And what are your hobbies? Um,
I like cooking. I'm a terrible sax player and musician. I make a lot of music with my pal, and uh, but I really like cooking. I make furniture.
oh, nice.
I just like making stuff. I'm actually sort of bad at everything, but try all of it. I can't, that old expression, measure twice, cut once, or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I feel it.
I'm like, I can't get it right, but I end up squishing stuff together. And
Right.
so I don't know. I just like, honestly, I like living in the tactile world. And I think cooking is really important to just at a certain point in the day. I mean, I work all night and all day, but at a certain point you say, now we're just going to create a work of art that's going to be gone as soon as we finish eating it. So once again, I'm not a good cook, but I enjoy that. And I enjoy the idea of that's a whole art form in itself.
Yeah, I find it a little complicated myself. I'm not a good cook at all. I think my wife would enjoy it if I did learn to cook a little better. But for sure. And then, did you always know you wanted to get in the film industry? Like when you were younger, was there anything else that you thought, hey, maybe I want to be a doctor or something? Or was it always your thought to be in the film industry?
I mean, I still haven't decided if I should get into the film industry yet. I was always, I liked acting. I actually wanted to be an actor, but I am too anxious, so I couldn't really, the whole idea of these actors who are shy people and then they get on stage and they're comfortable. It's like, I'm not comfortable on stage. I'm always sure I'm going to forget my lines. And so everything's a bit stressful. But, but ever since I was little, I was making stuff, building things. And, I built the Jaws boat and making little books with monsters. And so it was just always being engaged with the stuff that I think everyone on this call sort of likes, just monsters and fantasy creatures and design and just the imagination. So that's all it is. And then it just sort of turned into this thing. Well, I do love movies more than plays,
Yeah.
Not that I'm just saying. So it is definitely something about movies where it seems like it's all the art forms in one place.
Yeah, agreed. And if you only had to pick one thing that you've done for the rest of your life, so directing, writing, acting, like which one of those is your favorite out of all the roles that you filled in the industry? Directing.
Making the movie, and actually,
Yeah.
ironically, editing. Like, that's where I make the movie. And also it's where I enjoy people. Obviously, on the one hand, it's obvious because all this producing and mentoring and so on, but I'm also sort of a private person and I just love editing on my own. I don't have an editor. Maybe people would say I should. I just don't care anymore about all those considerations. I remember everybody always saying, well, you should have a third eye. I'm like, it's ridiculous. I don't need another person. My thing with humanity is it's all a negotiation, and I understand it, that everybody has an ego. Sometimes I just want to make my art the way I want to make it. Maybe there's a better version, but what's the better version mean? The one that's more commercial? I don't even know.
Right.
I just want to tell my story personally, try to be honest for a brief second, and see if other people get what I'm saying. And they don't always. I mean, I'm only as popular as I am, so it doesn't really seem to be working that well. But
Oh, I don't think any of us would think that about you, Larry. So. I think the only other thing I had was so I watched that movie Beneath, and that giant fish monster. What the heck was that? Was that like a remote control thing, or how was that
dude,
built?
it's so hilarious. I told them, I said, I just need the top. I want it as light as possible so that it can freak people out by through the water. And then they showed up with this fucking boat of a thing. and they would like all day long we'd be filming with the kids on the boats. And then like at 4:00, these two guys they would arrive like from the shore. They'd pull the damn fish. And then we'd have like 45 minutes to do one shot where the fish did something. And they'd have the whole.
Oh my God.
It was absurd. It was nothing I asked for. I mean, I still had affection for it because it was real.
Yeah.
And, you know, there's a couple of good shots. But it was, it's funny when you make a movie at a certain budget, or I don't know, I just didn't feel I had enough authority over this thing. This is not what I asked for, this incredibly heavy, cumbersome creature. But, you know, it's funny. I don't mind.
It looked cool. I thought it was, I loved it. It was
worked,
a very enjoyable film.
Yeah. And there's some great shots. And but there's another movie that it's not about the fish. Unfortunately, it's about how terrible these kids are.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
true.
always joked. I mean, now you guys will know the reference, but I was joking that this is like the Congress. You know, these kids. There's a real problem, and they're just infighting with their old personal resentments. You know, girlfriends and this and that. And I was saying it's just a movie about complete dysfunction and how we can't figure out how to communicate in the face of a disaster, which in this case was the fish, but obviously climate change and every other problem. So it's another movie. Nobody likes that movie, or they don't consider it from my verse, but actually it's exactly what I have to say. I consider it a satire.
Yeah.
So honestly, I enjoyed it. It feels very different from the rest of your films, but I thought it was perfectly fun. I had a good time with it.
I think so. I mean, I didn't write it, but I rewrote it, so a lot of my stuff is in there, or at least, you know, my favorite thing is the kill where the rope goes around the kid. I did write all that. I said I'll only do it if I can do this kill. I don't know why I was excited.
Sometimes you just want to see people die. It's
Yeah, but I guess that's all I had. Thank you for answering all my questions.
Look at this cool toy I got.
Oh, that is an awesome
nice.
Wolfman.
That's good, right?
Yeah.
I think I got it at Comic-Con.
Oh, that's nice.
Damn, that's good.
Oh. I love that.
I don't care. They're all going to make fun of me for loving Universal movies, but
No, I love them. So for Christmas, my wife got me 2 4K collections of. So I've got Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, The Wolf Man, and Creature from Black Lagoon.
so good.
Yeah.
What a treat.
Yeah.
Well, you guys started with this question, but Invisible Man is like, that's one of the most incredible ones. Oh, dude, look at that guy. That's crazy.
Where'd you get that from,
love
Joey?
I actually got that from Books A Million.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You know, and Creatures from the Black Lagoon is actually probably one of the earliest horror movies I remember watching with my parents when I was a very young boy.
I love that. Oh, it's a good
Oh,
one, too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, that's a great. Good for your parents.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
I like that.
I love
that's awesome.
I love the creature, and the last movie in that series is so sad.
Oh, dude, it's funny you say that. I got to tell you, well, this is good. I'm going to watch it. I've never seen it because I was always annoyed by the creature design by the end. But I'm sure it's worth seeing. And I think the second one is almost as good or better than the first one because he's in a rural environment.
Yeah.
It's so cool when you actually have a monster like looking in a suburban window.
Mhm.
It's so scary, and he kills that dude on the beach or whatever happens. It's kind of more frightening than the one that's in the exotic location. You expect to see a monster when you go to the jungle, but when he's just suburbs, I love it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's kind of like the upcoming Scream 6 is kind of the same way because you're going to have Ghostface, in the middle of the city. We see in the trailer. Have you seen the trailer for Scream 6?
Oh.
Yeah, it shows him on a subway actually stabbing somebody just in the middle of everybody.
Oh, dude. Well, that's, of course, an appropriate trope. The Scream movies, when they first came out, they slightly annoyed me because I'm always resistant to... But they're really fun to revisit.
Yeah,
And they actually maintain... There's not a weak one.
Yeah. Well, I think the third one is probably the weakest, but even it's good.
Yeah, I like it.
Huh? What'd you say, Casey?
Oh, I like it. Yeah, a lot of people say Scream 3 is trash. I've heard a lot of people say that, but
no, I think it's fine.
I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's fine. Yeah. So, what do you think of these new films that are almost just plotless gore? I want to say like Terrifier. Terrifier 2 had a semblance of a plot, but the first one really barely does. It's just an excuse for gore. And I was thinking, like, the only thing I can connect them to is, like, the old Herschel Gordon Lewis movies. But those had a sense of humor about it, so they didn't seem as grim. What do you think about that?
I haven't seen it.
Okay.
But the irony is I've just never had an interest in gore for gore's sake. I've already cited two of the goriest movies, Henry and Man Bites Dog and so on, and Irreversible and
that's a hard
Funny
one.
Games, although I have issues there. But the point is I'm not a body count guy. So I almost don't need to comment because it's not my scene.
Okay.
That's like saying, which hardcore band do I like? Yeah. Well, I'm not going to be able to weigh in properly. Doesn't mean I'm dismissing the genre.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
But the only thing about what's it called? Terrifier? Is that I keep getting put in these articles with that.
Oh, really?
And it's embarrassing because that's a low budget, very, very successful. It's doing really well.
Yeah.
And then they say, and then there's Fessenden who makes low budget movies. I'm like, well, I'm never going to make Terrifier money.
Thing at all.
So that's just embarrassing.
That's kind of weird comparing the two because they're entirely different universes of movies. The type of
exactly.
Movies. Yeah. So. All right. Well, guys, anybody have anything else before we lose our one chance?
No, I don't think so. I just want to, say thank you for being on the pod. It's been a lot of fun.
Oh, that's awesome.
Man.
Yep.
Is there any chance that when Blackout comes out, you'll come and talk to us again?
Of course, guys. Anytime. I like talking about scary movies.
Awesome. This has been awesome. I cannot thank you enough, sir. Honestly.
Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you finding me and doing this.
You know what? I got your email from IMDb Pro, and that's the best $100 I ever spent. Was getting IMDb Pro.
All right. So where are you? Kansas?
Yeah, Kansas and Missouri.
Middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
sure. That's fantastic.
So Casey lives in a little place called Pittsburgh. I live in a tiny little place called Scammon. Josh is in Kansas City, and Joey lives in Joplin, Missouri.
Damn.
Yeah. So.
What a gang. All right. Well, I'm up here in upstate New York, so there you go.
Outstanding. Well, thank you again, Larry. Thank you so much. This has been a great night, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Well, thanks a lot, guys. And I dig the Frida Kahlo. That's kind of groovy.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even realize what shirt I had on. I love Frida Kahlo. Yeah, she was amazing. It's a
yeah. Very
Yeah.
cool.
I love
All right,
Cirilla's
guys.
painting. Thank you, Larry. Have a
Yeah,
great
thank
one.
you.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye.